All right. And just so everyone knows, if you want to control the screen, you can go up to the right-hand side and set out the gallery view or the speaker view, immersive view, whatever you want, just so you can sort of pick your own journey there so you can see all of our speakers as they're sharing today. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Danielle Friday and I'm part of the community conservation team at Taronga Conservation Society Australia and co-founder of the Hatch Taronga Accelerator Program. The Hatch program exists to inspire, support and launch innovative ideas and actions to help address some of our most pressing environmental and conservation challenges currently facing the planet. And at the end of today's session, I will share some more information about our upcoming programs. I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country. So today I join you from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I also want to recognise the land of the Camaragal people and the Wiradjuri people, the two lands on which Taronga and Taronga Western Plains zoos stand. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands and of the lands from which you all join us today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. And I extend the respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So a couple of quick housekeeping items. We do encourage you to keep your cameras on if you're comfortable to do so, as it's always nicer talking to faces than blank screens. But we do ask you to keep your microphones on mute just so we can minimise any background noise. As I mentioned at the start, we are recording this session for those unable to make it, and I will also share a recording for those of you who are here today. We'll have some time at the end for audience questions. So if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll take a look at those as we get towards the end. So today's session, as the title suggests, is all about ecopreneurship. And for those who may not be familiar with this term, it's where the principles of entrepreneurship are applied to create businesses that solve environmental problems. So I'm very excited for our chat today with our 4 inspiring ecopreneurs about their journey. So let's meet them and get into it. So firstly, I would like to introduce Natalie Kyriacou OAM, founder and CEO of My Green World. My Green World is a Melbourne-based social enterprise dedicated to addressing global wildlife and environmental challenges through innovative, youth-focused education. Natalie is an award-winning social entrepreneur, CEO, board advisor, and environmental and social growth director at PwC. Natalie advises world leaders on environmental and social policy, is a leading advocate for social enterprises and not-profits, and was recently named a top green voice on LinkedIn. And in 2018, Natalie was awarded the Medal of Order of Australia for her services to wildlife and environmental conservation. So we are delighted and very privileged to have Natalie here with us today. We're also joined by Hutchins and Aniyo Rahebi, the co-founders of Good Edi. Now, Good Edi are the makers of the fabulous edible coffee cup. And I've got one here that you can see. So you can have your coffee and eat it too. These cups are fully biodegradable and function like a takeaway cup without harming the planet or compromising on convenience. Catherine and Aniyo have more than 20 years combined experience in the food processing and packaging industry and have combined this with their shared interest in sustainability and coffee to create this fantastic product. Good Edi were the winners of the inaugural Hatch program in 2020, and they successfully raised more than $90,000 through crowdfunding. Despite the challenges of launching in a pandemic, they have achieved incredible progress, forming partnerships with aligned businesses, including Genovese and 3 Blue Ducks, and their delicious cups are now available across 5 states. And our final panellist today is Fergus Woollcombe, founder and CEO of the Pedal Club. Fergus is a passionate environmentalist and keen cyclist who founded the Pedal Club in Sydney in December 2020. The Pedal Club is a kids' bike subscription service that provides parents with a more flexible and convenient and sustainable alternative to buying children's bicycles and helps to reduce bike waste. Fergus has a background in commercial real estate, but I think the Pedal Club is definitely his calling. It has enabled Fergus to combine his interest in cycling and the environment with an innovative business idea that provides a fantastic service and sustainable option for parents. Fergus was part of the 2021 Hatch program and received the People's Choice Award. And just today, I was reading a great write-up about the Pedal Club with talk of expansion plan that we can touch on a little bit later. So welcome to you all and thanks so much for joining us. Let's start off to get each of you to share a little more about yourself and your eco startup. And we'll start with you, Natalie.
Thanks, Danielle, and thanks for having me. It's definitely my honour. So as you mentioned, I run an organisation called My Green World. So we're a youth-focused wildlife and environmental organisation, and our aim is really to inspire curiosity and create inclusive and digital learning programs that engage young people and their families in wildlife and environmental conservation and science, and make it really fun and exciting. We have two flagship programs. One was an app which is currently offline, but it was probably it was started as a passion project, but it's one of my favourite. It's an app called World of the Wild, and it was a bit of a virtual conservation game that allowed kids to participate in real world conservation efforts while supporting charities. And in addition to my work at My Green World, I lead business development at PwC for environmental social governance. So my job is essentially, we're making the moral case for environmental and social equity each day, but I'm also making the economic case to get big business to move along a bit quicker. And I sit on the board committee of Care Australia. So they're an international humanitarian aid organisation with a big focus on women and girls. And so most of my career, I've been trying to focus on how we can amplify voices around environmental conservation, but also how do we mobilise and encourage young people to get more involved in environmental conservation, and also recognising the immense value and power of their voices. And that's been, I guess, my main focus for the last 15 years.
Thanks, Natalie. We love the work that you do. I'm not sure how you find time to do it all, but very inspiring. And I can certainly say you are incredible power for elevating and promoting people's voices, across the green space and also the social space. So yeah, fantastic the work you do, and I'm sure we'll get to learn more about it as we go through the session today. Thank you, Aniyo and Catherine. We might head over to you now.
Thanks, Danielle, and thanks for having us. You already did a really great intro, so we don't need to say too much more. But so I'm Catherine, and this is Aniyo, and we're the co-founders of Good Edi, and we make a takeaway cup you can eat. So it's a waste-free, sustainable, and also convenient solution to the huge disposable cup problem that we have in Australia and also around the world. So we started this because we noticed that there was this huge problem, 2.7 million cups going to landfill every day in Australia, which is 1 billion per year, and around the world that's 500 billion every year. So we wanted to do something to try and divert some of those cups and make a solution that was really good for the planet and also tasty for us to eat. So we are now in over 40 outlets across 5 states in Australia, and we've sold over 50,000 cups. So that's 50,000 cups that haven't ended up in landfill. So that's pretty amazing, and we're continuing on that journey now. And it's been a really exciting journey. So starting with the Hatch program and learning about startups and going through a crowdfunding campaign, and then we set up our production and started producing cups here in Coburg and Melbourne in June 2021.
Amazing, terrifying stats that you gave us then on, the single-use cup problem, but super exciting stats on, the number that you sold and the progress that you ladies are making. And, I know through your journey with Hatch, you're in lockdown pretty much the whole time we were doing the program, and for a consumer-focused product, that's not an easy start. So it's really exciting to see, the growth that you've had and the success, and we look forward to hearing more about that today and that continuing as well. So thank you. And last but certainly not least for this one, Fergus, I'm going to hand over to you. Love to hear a little bit more about the Pedal Club and yourself as well and your journey.
Thanks, Danielle, and thanks for having me. So my name is Fergus. I'm originally from the UK. I've been over here for now getting on for 5 years, and I am the CEO and founder of the Pedal Club. We provide kids' bikes on a flexible and sustainable basis. As any parent will know, kids grow incredibly fast, meaning they outgrow everything incredibly fast. And parents are famously time poor. So this just means a constant struggle to replace toys, clothes, sports equipment, and obviously bikes. So we provide top of the range bikes, high quality, lightweight, that are either brand new or refurbished, what we call pre-loved, from brands like BYK, Neo and Glober, and suitable for basically, you know, any kid, or whatever age you want to put your kid on a bike, whether that is sometime between 0 and 1 or 1 to 2 or something, all the way up to kind of 13, 14, at which point they're kind of looking at adult bikes. And as a parent, you can subscribe to our bikes, as you quite rightly said, Danielle, on a flexible monthly basis. Or, excitingly, you can now buy the new bikes with a buyback guarantee. So we guarantee to buy those bikes back off you when the time comes. Either way, the idea being that the parents can swap the bikes as their kids grow. And yeah, I think the key idea is really being that we're encouraging parents to kind of get their kids riding without having to deal with all that hassle, waste, and unnecessary costs. And interestingly, to Nat's point, I suppose there's an element of trying to kind of invoke some sustainability awareness in the kind of next generation as well. That, you know, you don't have to kind of buy and dispose of things. Take, make, waste is a thing of the past. So so yeah, that's it. And that's me.
Yeah, thanks, Fergus. And I love it. I remember, you know, last year working with you through Hatch and you talking about how, you know, we live in a subscription economy for many areas, you know, Netflix and Uber Eats and all these things. Why not apply it to something like this? And it was like, wow, of course, it makes so much sense when you say it. And I think something that has struck me for both of, you know, the Good Edi Cups, the Pedal Club, and also some of the other teams we've worked with is just the simplicity of the actual solution. You know, there's a lot of complex challenges out there and some will need complex solutions, but equally sometimes something, you know, very simple and straightforward can actually be the solution that we're looking for. So it's exciting to see that offering grow as well. Now, our focus for the session today is on opportunity for people who might come from a corporate or a non-environmental background to see how they can use their existing skills and experience to step into ecopreneurship. And you're all great examples of making this shift. So love to hear a bit more about that journey, and particularly that shift for you and you know, what inspired you to make that change. And just a reminder, if you do have any questions for the panel, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll get to those later on. But I might start with Catherine and Aniyo for this one.
Thanks, Danielle. So yeah, both of us, we have background in food processing and packaging and many years of working in corporate. And one of the things working in the industry, food and packaging, we realized that how much packaging can create waste. And both of us, we really wanted to do something that has a bigger impact. And we were very much interested in talking about new business ideas. And we were both very interested in sustainability. And both of us, we really love coffee. So one of those days that we were talking about one of these ideas, we said, how about we just focus on disposable cup problem? And as we went through some of the numbers are quite overwhelming. And when we looked at the basically the solutions that they are in the market, none of them, they were solving the problem. So we have a few different solutions, like a reusable cup, which the uptake was quite slow, and also those ones that they claim to be like biodegradable or sustainable, they were not really delivering on those claims that they were claiming. So we wanted to basically address this problem and create a solution that it is convenient and sustainable and doesn't change the behavior of the consumers. So really applying those skill set, like how we should look at the problem, how you should focus on finding the right solution for it, and what is really truly sustainable, really from the corporate background, helped us to come up with the, as you said, very, very simple solution, but it can address the problem quite easily.
I love what you just said then, Aniyo, around that behavior of consumers and, you know, really considering that in how do you address the challenge. And, you know, something at Taronga, we do a lot of work around behaviour change and how do we engage people to adopt those more sustainable behaviours, as Ferg and Natalie mentioned. But I also love the way you were able to find the solution that doesn't need to necessarily drive people to change their behaviour, because it's not an easy thing to do. So amazing. Thank you. Ferg, we might move over to you now. So same sort of question, really interested about your shift from your previous career into this new space and how you found that journey.
Yeah, so as you mentioned at the beginning, I used to work in commercial real estate. I was a chartered surveyor in the UK. It's the qualification you have to do. It's not nearly as important out here, it turns out. But I did that. I was trained as a chartered surveyor straight out of university, and then made the shift out here. And the plan to make the shift to entrepreneurship and ecopreneurship was not in place at that point. I'd come out here to progress my career in property and find a job that I really loved, and I. On the face of it, that's exactly what I did. I got a job that I wanted at the time, but it's just that sort of seed of unfulfillment just sort of sits and grows within you, and that's what happened with me. It was a real slow burn, and kind of I guess accelerated by COVID. The property industry practically shut down, and so that gives you a lot more time to kind of reflect and think and look back on what you've done and where you want to go and everything. And I've always been one of these people who kind of scribbles business ideas down and does sort of desk-based research on various wild and wonderful ideas that I've had. And so I think really weirdly it was a kind of maybe a lack of inspiration in my career that then triggered me to think about what else I could do. And then at that point you start to gain external inspiration from people probably around your age or your generation that are doing things that you kind of, pricks your ears up and you're going, oh, that's cool. Like, I wonder if I could do something like that. So yeah, that was kind of, I guess, how I arrived to the point at which I wanted to kind of, I guess, jump into entrepreneurship and ecopreneurship. And then, the Pedal Club originally was I'm a cyclist, as I think you mentioned, and I'd seen so many problems in the cycling industry, particularly when sort of buying bikes, there's a lack of trust, there's a load of waste, it's supposedly a sustainable sort of way of getting around, but there's so many kind of issues and problems in the industry. So that's the kind of the route I came at it from, and I ended up getting a part-time job in a bike shop just because I wanted to get a bit closer to the industry and understand it a little bit more. And it was working there that I noticed the kind of opportunity in the kids bike market. So yeah, it's kind of it's funny looking back at it. It was definitely a slow burn getting to the point at which I decided to take the leap into entrepreneurship, and yeah, glad that I did.
Thanks, Ferg. It's great to hear that story because you're certainly not going to be alone on that journey. I think, at the last couple of years, the uncertainty, the upheaval has created a lot of, I guess, questions for people around, am I feeling fulfilled? Am I doing what I want to do? How can I make a better contribution? And which is exciting to see more people, hopefully going to go after some of those opportunities, and hopefully some of those will be to support, the environment in different ways. And I feel the slow burn as well. I made the career change from corporate into conservation at Taronga a few years ago, and that took a number of years to sort of get to that point where you're ready to take the leap. But like you, very glad that I did. So it's exciting. And Natalie, I guess with your career so far, you've always sort of combined your business expertise, with that environmental focus. So I'd love to hear a bit more about how you found that.
Yeah, I'm probably a good example of somebody that just didn't have the formal skills that would usually lead to a career in environmental conservation and education, or to run a business. I didn't have an environmental science degree. I didn't have a business degree. I didn't have a degree in education. I had a bachelor in journalism and a master's in international relations. And I literally knew nothing about any of the things that I've now become, I guess, more skilled in. But what I did have was an endless passion and curiosity and a desire to live a life of meaning and impact. And so my story, I guess it started when an orangutan stole my underwear. So I was in between degrees. I just finished my undergraduate degree and I was going to do my master's, but I went to the Bornean jungle in Sabah in Malaysia, and Borneo to be exact. And I was going to write my first ever published article on palm oil and orangutan endangerment. So I spent 2 months living in the jungle with a bit of an aim to learn about some of the challenges facing some of our most iconic species, and to write about the impact of palm oil on orangutans. And I was living in a small guest house in one of the few remaining tracts of, I guess, protected rainforest in the region. And I remember I was hanging out my washing and every day, and an orangutan must have been watching me, because I walked out one morning and an orangutan was wearing my underwear around his neck. And anyway, I tried to get it off him, and a bit of a tug of war ensued, and I've got photos on my Facebook, and he won, so he's got my underwear. But I guess it's that this moment, or these 2 months, that really shaped my whole career, in that I was fortunate to experience this really rich natural environment, and I think there's, I guess it was, it gave me a more nuanced understanding of some of the issues around the palm oil conversation, around how communities and livelihoods are impacted, about how native species are impacted, about the tourism industry. And so I went back to Melbourne and I started my master's degree, but I thought I want to find a way to engage people in these global wildlife and environmental issues, and I want people to recognise that it's not just an issue for Borneo. These are a global issue, and and so I also wanted to find a way to engage young people, because at the same time these apps like Angry Birds and Sims and things were out, and I was thinking, what if we could build an app that had the same level of entertainment but a real world impact, and was educational and engaging. And I mean, now all sorts of other issues arise with dependence on technology, but that was the aim. So I just started storyboarding an idea for an app. I had no experience, no idea what I was doing. I literally had a pencil on paper and started mapping out what it would look like, and from there everything exploded. I was really just so dedicated to that, obsessed with it, and leaned on a lot of experts and non-profits and people that were smarter than me and more successful than me to help guide me, and I guess that's where it all started.
I love it. That is definitely the best career start story I've ever heard. Goals right there. But I completely agree with you. Getting to see that wildlife in its natural habitat is just so inspiring. But also, I love when you talk about, with the app and wanting to develop something to meet the kids' audience where they were at, and trying to find, something that would engage them, but would also help get those messages through. Which is a fantastic lesson, I think, for anyone going into ecopreneurship as well, trying to meet your audience where they're at and really understand them, similar to, Aniyo and Catherine with the coffee option. So thank you. Now, if we have a look at your sort of journeys so far, every new undertaking always comes with challenges. So keen to, hear some of the challenges that you face that you might be willing to share, and how you've, found your way through those. So Fergus, I might start with you this time.
Yeah, sure. I think it's probably pretty important to say that the entire experience is definitely a challenge. That's not to say it's not the best thing I've ever done, and I've had the best year and a half doing it. But you are quite literally taking a leap into the unknown. I think it was Reid Hoffman, which I think is quite a famous one-liner now, but I absolutely love it, who said, starting a company is like jumping off a cliff and building the plane on the way down. And I think it's so true. Day one, you're literally like, okay, now what? So I mean, I could run through sort of endless challenges I faced with the business, like, trying to raise capital, establish an early adopter customer base, how the hell to build a Shopify website. I mean, that's a story in itself. But to be honest, I think probably I think the biggest challenge that I've felt has been more personal, probably more kind of more emotional, more personal, and you experience so many highs and lows in life. And as a solo founder particularly, you know, with the business, when you're experiencing those highs and lows, you're completely by yourself. Any small issue you have with the business, you have to work through yourself. You have to work it out. Any win or success you have, you know, yes, you celebrate it with everyone else and your friends and your family, but you know, it's your experience. You're experiencing it yourself, and that's something that I've definitely struggled with. And you know, getting through that, the way to get through that for me has been you surround yourself with a great support network, and Hatch, for example, was fantastic for that. You guys were brilliant, you and Tom. All the mentors I've had along the way, and you know, I've got a close sort of advisory board that I share these experiences with. But I think that's the biggest challenge, and the reason I've said that is because I think it's important to know that, because it's incredibly exciting, and there's so, you know, when you start a journey like this, it's, you know, you just want to, you're kind of, as you were saying, Nat, you become obsessed. You're so engrossed in the whole process. It's really exciting, but I think it's important to know that you're going to have some tough times. So that would be I'd love to hear what Catherine and Anyo's experience has been as joint founders as well, because that's a, you know, slightly different scenario. But yeah, I think that's probably my biggest challenge so far, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Fergus, for sharing. And you're right, it absolutely is so important that people are conscious of that, stepping into this opportunity. And I think, you know, like anything, big opportunities and you know, big potential also comes with, I guess, big challenges and a bit of a journey. So, all right, let's go over to Catherine and Aniyo then, and let's, you know, hear from you on this point.
Yeah, thanks, Fergus. That was really interesting. And I think we quite often say that we're so glad that we have the both of us, because we sort of share all those challenges that you mentioned, and we've sort of found that having someone to like bounce ideas and to share in the like workload and everything like that has been super helpful. And yeah, we've sort of I really like that quote you said as well. It's exactly like that. And you never stop building the plane. We're just still hoping that it starts flying before we hit the ground. So yeah, but it is a really exciting journey, and something that's really fulfilling and exciting is that all the work that you put in, and it's a lot of hard work, but it's all you know, the output is all because of that work that you've put in. It's not putting money, you know, putting all your hours into a big corporate company where someone else is getting the benefit from it. And that's such a great feeling. And we've had a lot of challenges along the way. You know, I think we talk a lot about coming up with the idea, but that's actually the easy part. It's turning the idea into something that's actually going to work and actually going to have that impact that we dream of having is the difficult part. And we, you know, a couple of the ones that you mentioned, like fundraising, learning all about that, then also just learning about how to start a business. You know, we'd worked in corporate, and you have this, when you work in corporate, typically you have quite a tunnel view. You have one area where you're really expert, and you don't really have that overview over every aspect of the business. And all of a sudden, when you have a startup, you're in charge of marketing and sales and the payroll and staff and everything in between, procurement and logistics and freight and all these things. So now you sort of have to become a bit of an expert, because you're not able to outsource everything. Outsourcing is really important when there is an area that you really just are not strong in and need to get help from other people. But we can't do that for everything. So we really just have to have a crash course in, you know, how to set up Xero and how to set up Google Analytics and linking it to your Shopify platform and all of these things. So one of the really big challenges that we wanted to mention was that we decided right from the beginning that we wanted to produce our cups here in Australia. So we didn't want to import a product and have that huge carbon footprint of shipping and relying on another supplier. So we wanted it to be all in-house and for us to do it. And that came with a lot of challenges. We had to basically, we'd come up with this novel product. So it's very unique. So you can't just go down to Bunnings and ask for an edible cut production line. We had to sort of work out what all of the different stages of the process were, source all of the equipment, find stuff that was going to work, constant sort of problems that we had to overcome. So, you know, we think we have it all, and then there was one part that wasn't quite working, or it wasn't efficient enough, so we had to find a solution. And even just you know, we also have a focus to make sure that we source all of our ingredients locally, and we really want to support the local businesses and doing that, but also being able to run a business that's going to be profitable is quite challenging. So even sourcing packaging, so we wanted to source all of our packaging from local suppliers, and that comes at a much higher cost. So I think a lot of people just go for the easy route of let's get it from China, and we're really proud of what we've set up now, because we have a totally plastic-free process. We source all of our ingredients and our packaging locally, and as much as we can, we try and support all of our local businesses and similar startups and everything like that. So yeah, that's a challenge, but it's one that we really want to keep on doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that insight, Catherine, because you know, again, I think you've raised some great points there. You know, you talked around the impact you want to have, and Natalie mentioned that earlier as well, but also with that and this focus on trying to do the right thing environmentally, as you say, comes with some of those challenges and makes it harder almost to do the right thing. But, you know, hopefully, I think that's one area that if we can get more and more businesses, you know, with that in mind and that commitment, you know, we can therefore make it easier for the collective. But got to have some people starting to pave the way. So thank you for doing that. Natalie, over to you.
Yeah, I think, oh God, it's been all challenges and lots of failures. But I think I should probably mention that I have a lot of privilege in that I've always had a really supportive family. So I was able to take risks knowing that, you know, I wouldn't end up on the street. I could move back in with my parents, and you know, while it might not have been economic privilege, it was sort of I'm very, very lucky to have that family and safety net that allowed me to take certain risks. But when I started off building an app. So I built my app before the company, which I did everything wrong, but it just wasn't very common at the time to build an app. And I was a university student. I worked a full-time job on the side. I didn't have the money to cover the costs of the app, so I sold my car and moved back in with my parents, which was a very humbling experience. I worked constantly. There was just no balance. It completely emotionally and physically consumed me. And I also had a legal battle with the app developers, which was awful. And I was just terrified of failing, and was frequently told, especially by strangers, that I was making a big mistake personally investing in the app and in the environment, which I think it's the best investment to make an investment in the environment. I still think that, but it can, when you're just starting out and you're not an expert in it, you listen and you take in a lot. You take in everything that everybody says, and I wasn't equipped at that stage to make my own sound. I felt I didn't have confidence enough in my own decision making, so I found that really, really challenging. I also think, and I don't know if the others have experienced this, but and it doesn't happen anymore, but especially at the beginning, there's a lot of subtle discrimination for people working in the environmental space. It was seen as fluff, not real work. I was a bit of a lightweight or a tree hugger. Wasn't seen as real business. Well, it is today, but it wasn't. And that was particularly amplified for, I guess, a woman running an environmental initiative as well. I was always labelled as the environmental girl, and that there's no money or success in the environment. And it was this really belittling and demeaning way of talking about environment and women in business. And And then there's more blatant discrimination, which I think many people can relate to. Women weren't being invested in. They didn't win pitch competitions or startup competitions. They didn't get asked to speak at many startup events. They weren't profiled as leading entrepreneurs. They weren't invited to startup events. And it wasn't because of lack of talent or availability. It was just that we were continuously overlooked and sidelined. And I guess that that leads to the other challenge of imposter syndrome and a lack of confidence. So I found myself a lot, going to events and putting on a really confident facade, but just being absolutely riddled by insecurity and knowing how much of a personal investment I'd made. And so it was a really humbling experience. And I think a lot of the challenges that I experienced throughout the running of my company was, one, probably not trusting myself enough. And I think when I started to back myself a little bit more, that's when I was able to get a lot more traction. And I think through not effectively valuing and prioritizing my time management, recognizing that knowing where to, I guess looking at it as a bit of a impact versus effort matrix, and how much effort I'm going to put into something and what the impact of that would be. And now I'm a little bit more discerning with the tasks I take on or the work I take on to make sure it's really high impact and what sort of effort is required. And early on in my startup, I'd get so consumed. I could spend 40 hours straight just working on one page of my website. And so I guess that was one thing that I really learned, of prioritizing how I spend my time and also valuing my time. I was volunteering quite a lot and started speaking at more events and was doing that voluntarily. And so I started thinking, okay, I want to volunteer in and to have the most impact in these areas, and in these other areas I'm going to say no, this is I'd like to be compensated for my time, or I need to see some sort of value. Can you donate to my organization or something like that? So those were, I guess, the main challenges that I experienced, though there's a whole host of them. And I think just from what the others have said, I remember even just starting on, that Googling, how do I start a business? Those sort of things. So it's daily challenges, thinking I'm not just, I'm not just running a business and doing the marketing, I'm cleaning the toilets and I'm doing, it's everything. So it's starting from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Natalie, and those insights. I mean, absolutely. I think it's hopefully bit by bit we're making a bit of progress on that, some of that, discrimination and the women, leaders coming forward. It's been interesting with Hatch for the 2 years that we've run it. First year we had 50% women in the cohort. Second year we didn't have as many. Yet it sort of seems to be that the female founders that have really, taken their task on and gone forward, which has been exciting, and Fergus, of course. But so it's great to see more women, taking the lead and stepping forward. But yeah, it's an ongoing journey that we all need to be supporting and making those opportunities available. And I think I love what you talked about there about the balance as well, because, we're looking at sustainability for the environment, but we need sustainability for ourselves. And I think that's something that we all need to remember as well, because if we burn out, if you as founders burn out, then you can't keep achieving and progressing and having that impact that you're trying to have. So, so let's now look at, I guess, successes or lessons learned. Is there a key lesson or success that you'd be keen to share with us? Natalie, might throw back to you to start this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a few. So one would be, in my experience, don't pin all of your hopes on investment. It doesn't determine your personal worth or the impact and importance of your organisation. And for me, I found that very early on, I needed an angel investor, or that was all I was focused on, getting a big investor to come in and save the day. And that's really instrumental for a lot of organisations, but not for all of them. So I think that it's really understanding what your organisation actually needs, opposed to what you think you need based on societal expectations and perceived judgment of others. 2 would be trust your gut. You're going to get a range of opinions from everybody, and it's wonderful. So it's important to listen to them, but be able to filter in a way of, this is really helpful for me. This might not be relevant to my circumstances at this time, and know what to take in and embrace, and what to sort of put to the side. Another is know your worth, value your time. And then I guess lastly is pay it forward. I think there's this quote by Toni Morrison that says, if you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. That's not just a grab candy game. So I think it's really important to elevate other people, and that any success or impact you might have, take time to really mindfully and thoughtfully pay it forward to others.
Fantastic tips, and you certainly do embody that. All of those, but particularly the pay it forward. I see that all the time. So thank you. Ferg, any key lessons you'd share with us?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a theme. I mean, I think Nat's talking about confidence a lot, and I think it's really hard to be confident in everything you do. As we've talked about, you end up being a jack of all trades and master of none. So you have to ask for help, and I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is you cannot be afraid to go and ask for help, whether it's something highly practical. Like yesterday, I put on a Slack channel. I'm here in Fishburners at the moment. I put on a Slack channel. I was like, guys, I need some help with my Facebook advertising. I have no idea what's going wrong with it. And this amazing guy messaged me back straight away. He was like, let's have a quick call. Sorted the issue out for me. Absolute legend. Didn't ask anything for it. There is this incredible community in the startup world that is willing to help. And if you kind of if you open yourself up to that community, both to be helpful to them, but also to ask for their help, then you'll get so richly rewarded. I do think that comes with, as a bit of a package with what Nat was saying, you do have to trust your gut. You do have to be confident in the fact that you are the one that knows your business better than anyone. No one is in it with you. No one has the full picture. And I have had so much advice, and you can get advice paralysis. It's a real thing. So this one's a little bit of I think this one does take time, because what I've ended up doing is surrounding myself with a handful of people who I know give me, an eclectic mix of advice and good advice, and they understand me and I understand them. So you kind of you'll end up developing a small sort of group of people you can go to, but that takes time. But you just have to be confident enough to ignore advice, which sounds crazy when people are being so helpful, to just be like, nah, thanks, I'm all right. But you have to. So I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned. And it's really rewarding, because you then, you end up building your own confidence, and that's exponential, right? So yeah, I think very similar lessons to that. Are there any other key ones? Yeah, I think a similar thing, just to engross yourself in that community. I've done so many free trials at startup hubs and gone to pitch nights, and Hatch was obviously fantastic. But yeah, meeting people, we're all doing it ourselves, we're all in it, we're all experiencing the same thing. So get out there and say hi to people, and yeah, you'll be rewarded for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Fergus. And I couldn't agree more. The community is amazing, so definitely worth connecting in and utilising the power of the many. Catherine, Aniyo, any particular lessons you'd share with us?
Ours is quite similar as well, but one of the things that we want to share with you is always believe in your idea. So from the day you start, you come up with this idea, and there is definitely a good reason why you have started it, and that belief gives you the confidence to really build on it and make the progress. And also never give up. Like, we talked a lot about the challenges. There are so many things that happen that you can never estimate or forecast that they are going to happen, but and you don't have the skill set to deal with them, but never give up. There's always a solution. There's always somebody that can help you out, and you can bounce ideas with and come up with and pass through that challenging time. And finally, as everybody said, ask for help. There's nobody that is expert in everything. There are many things that you can do and you can research, but asking for that advice is kind of a shortcut from the expert people. They have done this before and they have overcome those challenges. So why not to reach out? And there are so many people that they are very generous about their time and their knowledge. And it has been very, very important for us and helpful in our journey. The things that we just had a just simple question, and the people that they helped us, even like some of the mentors from the Hatch, after the program was finished, we are still in touch. They are still helping us out without expecting anything. So really keeping and building that network and, being honest and transparent about what you don't know, and implementing, their advice when it is applicable to your business and your circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's the community's there to help, and it's great to get to be part of that. But equally, I agree with you all. The comments you've made around learning to trust your gut and believe in yourself. It's your business, and you know what was needed. So thank you all. All right. Just a reminder, if anyone does have any questions for the panel, please pop them in the chat. We will throw to those. So I'm just going to give the last question to the panel before we look at that. So I guess the question would be if there's any final piece of advice that you give to people keen to get into ecopreneurship that you haven't already shared, and also love just a little overview of what's coming up next for your startup. So Catherine and Aniyo, we'll kick off with you.
Yeah, great. So we've mentioned quite a few little bits of advice so far, but I think that the overall one is really find an idea that you're passionate about. So we talk about all these challenges that come along the way and about, never giving up. And one of the things that will stop you from giving up is if you've got this dream of this, the impact that you want to make, or this idea that you want to implement, that you're super passionate about, and that'll make you be here at 11:30 p.m. Doing the jobs that you didn't want to do, and going all out to make sure that it happens. So that's one of our key pieces of advice, and to really surround yourself with that that team of people or advisors that can really boost you and help you along the way. Sometimes you can feel like you're a bit in a bubble, and it can be very overwhelming, and you think that there's no solution, and sometimes all it takes is just to pick up the phone and talk to someone, and they give you this idea or solution that you never had thought about before, and it's quite easy. So don't ever isolate yourself, really connect with everyone. And we found it really valuable to connect with like-minded businesses and similar businesses, so other startups. They're the only people that truly understand the difficulties, and sometimes it's just really nice to just go and have a drink and talk about all the things that you've had to deal with, and have someone to share it with. And in terms of next steps for us, so we've got big dreams. We've started to make a bit of impact already, but we really want to broaden our impact in Australia and also overseas. So currently we're starting our fundraising to be able to scale up our production, and so that we can spread the edible cup dream further.
Love it. Can't wait. I was just saying before we started, they've just launched a chocolate coated cup, which looks super amazing. Cannot wait to try it, and really excited to see you girls grow and flourish even more. So good luck with it. Natalie, over to you. Any final top tip, and what's next for My Green World?
Yeah, top tip. I think finding a mentor or lots of mentors has been crucial for me, but also reverse mentorship. It goes both ways. It's a wonderful relationship to have. But I really think talking to communities and people on the ground, I guess having that grassroots view for the entirety of your career is really, really important. And I find that I think as you particularly in corporate spaces, or as you might work your way up the ladder, that grassroots community level can become more and more distant from you. And I think it's just reminding yourself every day, don't lose sight of your impact. Don't lose sight of the people and communities on the ground who are, I guess, facing environmental challenges at a more pronounced level, and stay true to yourself in that way. And also, don't let others dim your passion. I think it's your most valuable asset, and it can be, running an eco business is incredibly nourishing, but it can take a lot away from you as well. So reminding yourself that your passion is really important, and surrounding yourself with people who inspire your passion and admire your passion is, I think it's really instrumental. And then also joining community groups, whether it's Foundation for Young Australians or the Hatch program, and expanding that network and experience. And in terms of next steps for My Green World, I think there's going to be increased focus on the app. So the app I mentioned earlier, World of the Wild, which I took offline for redevelopment. I'm hoping to redevelop it into something that is more suitable for 2022, that takes into account some the real world experiences that we might be able to offer, and I guess alleviate some of the stresses that we had on how much we were encouraging kids to be too focused on technology. So if we can find ways to actually encourage young people and their families to get outdoors while using technology, that would be, that's my next focus.
Love it, Nat. Good luck with that. Can't wait to see that come out. And yeah, thank you for all that you do in this space as well. Love it. And Ferg, over to you. Any final tips and what's next for Pedal Club?
I mean, do it would be number one. Do it, and I don't mean quit your job today and just. I mean, if you have an idea, explore it. Do the research, and I think if you have decided you want to explore an idea you've had, then get out, work out who the key stakeholders are, and go and talk to them. Go and talk to them, even if it's casually, and talk to them and listen to them. I have been told this so many times and ignored it for a long time, and then started to talk to and listen to my customer base, my audience base, and that is the only way you'll really find out whether your idea is something kind of worth going further on, and you have to be open to the fact that it's not, and therefore you either iterate or you find something else. So I think that'd be my big piece of advice. Take the time to get to know the market that you're talking about, and get to know the key stakeholders. I think it's too common that we see products or services being launched without sort of the proper research. It's going to be more stressful for you. So that would be probably my big piece of advice. For the Pedal Club, I think praying that there's not a third La Nina is right at the top of the priority list. Turns out in a La Nina, parents don't take their kids out riding. So that's number one. But no, we're focused on customer growth and hitting the targets that we set this year. We have runway until sort of late this year. So if all goes to plan, then we'll be fundraising in a few months. And the big vision is, adding all sorts of new product lines that I'm exploring at the moment. So yeah, hopefully exciting times.
Super exciting. And we will second that, praying against any more La Ninas. I think we've had enough for now. So
not why I moved out here, Dan.
I know, fair enough. No, we take that. Look, thank you all so much. It's been such a wealth of knowledge and information and experience shared there. I've got a page full of notes that I've scribbled down, and hopefully everybody else has found that really valuable as well. So thank you all, so much for your generous sharing and insights there. I can see some thank yous popping up in the chat. We haven't had any questions pop through, so it looks like they're giving you all an easy ride. I will just take a moment to share my screen and just talk a little bit about the upcoming Hatch programs that we have. If this session has inspired you or you know someone who might be interested, then we do have development opportunities available for Ecopreneurs at all stages. So in May and June, we'll be running a new idea generation program, which is a 6-week free online program for anyone interested in tackling environmental challenges, but they're unsure where to start, or they might have an idea, but it's really early and they'd like some support to develop it. So we're taking expressions of interest for that now. We'll also be running a pre-accelerator later in the year in October, November. So the idea there will be to help people who have those ideas formed to get started to developing those further into a potential venture. And then we will be running the Hatch Accelerator program again for the first half of 2023. And again, looking to be able to support and launch more exciting solutions for the planet through that. So if any of those are of interest, please feel free to jump on the Hatch website and we will be able to, you've got all the information there and you can register your interest. We have had one quick question. Are there any go-to networks for eco groups or mentors? So I'll just throw that out to the group if anyone's got suggestions for that. Any go-to networks for eco groups or mentors? Catherine, Aniyo?
There is one for us. We recently joined basically a group called One Roof. It is for businesses that led by female founders. And there are so many amazing businesses that they are acting as a mentor in that group. So we found it really, really valuable. It's like there are thousands of different startups, so you can connect with similar businesses, and also you can reach out to other businesses that they can provide the service that you're looking for. So definitely recommend you to check it out.
Can you just say the name again for us, Aniyo?
One Roof.
One Roof. Okay.
And I can pop it in the chat.
Amazing. Thank you. Natalie, Ferg, any others that you'd share?
Yeah, I don't know about a community group, but I've been at Fish Burners here on York Street in the Sydney Startup Hub, and they do pitch nights every Friday. It's not always eco and environmentally focused, but it's well worth going to. Usually a couple of drinks and a bit of pizza, and you watch some great pitches, and then it's the kind of networking thing afterwards. So yeah, well worth doing that. And they do, like, I think they have themes, so there'll be an environmentally focused themed night. You just have to get on the website and sort of subscribe to the newsletter, and yeah,
awesome.
I'd recommend doing that.
Thanks, Ferg.
And I'd probably just echo, One Roof is amazing. I was a member there, and they've been incredibly supportive. Foundation for Young Australians, which yeah, if I'm not sure if age is an issue, but it's a good network to be involved in. And the only other one is, and I don't know if it's not strict mentoring, but I'm a member of IUCN, International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and that's an incredible institution to be involved in and learn from.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'll include those in a follow-up email so everybody can have a look. And we are at time, so I'm conscious that it is, people may need to head off. Thanks, Ferg. You mentioned Circular Economy Slack channel as well. So yeah, there's definitely lots of great groups out there, and the more we can connect, the more impact we can all have. So again, huge thank you to all of our speakers, Natalie, Fergus, Aniyo, Catherine. Lovely to see you, and thank you so much for being part of today's session. We do have another webinar next Thursday, same time, talking to leaders in conservation if anyone's interested. But in the meantime, we hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and this has inspired your inner ecopreneur. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.